This is TWiT.
So maybe we could talk a little bit about builds since we're here.
Great.
We've sat through some kind of pre-briefings, obviously, that you hosted, which was great, and then the actual events. We had the keynotes and so forth. And I have to say, for myself, the most interesting bit in some ways came very late yesterday. And I don't remember exactly the way you said it, but it was repeated again on stage where the essence of it is that in Microsoft's view, the platform wars are over, and that, you sort of recognize that Windows is one of the devices that people will use on PCs typically, and that it can serve kind of a special role in that capacity, which I find to be very interesting and also very smart, by the way. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because this is kind of contrary to the way people think about companies competing and platforms competing and so forth.
Well, if you sort of think about the journey that we've been on as a company over the last set of years, one of the first things that happened when Satya became CEO is we went down and we had an event in the Bay Area where we talked about bringing Office to iOS, and that was seen as a big deal for a bunch of different reasons. But one of them was this sense of openness and willingness to really embrace cross-platform collaboration, and
right.
That's continued across a number of our different products. You see our apps show up everywhere. If you had said 5 years ago that the best way to read email on an iOS device that was hooked up to Gmail was an app from Microsoft, people would say you've lost your mind. But that's arguably true today, with Outlook on iOS and on Android. And so yesterday when Satya talked about this evolved worldview of sort of mobile first, cloud first, moving to intelligent edge and intelligent cloud, and as part of that, the expansion of the Microsoft Graph to include devices, that was a pretty big signal that in this world, Windows becomes a really core part of this new Microsoft. And what Terry and team really showed off today, was openness and the sense that if you put the customer at the center and you say, hey, we live in a world where everybody has multiple devices, and we have this belief that we can make all of those devices better for the user if one of them is running Windows. And that's what we showed today.
Yeah, actually, just the expansion of the Microsoft Graph to consumers in a way is itself a huge thing, right? And I think Microsoft Graph is something that might be a little confusing to people who probably haven't been paying attention to that kind of technology yet. But basically what you're referring to is all the inputs you can get from different services and products, and how those things can kind of provide just a deeper understanding of what a person is doing across all of their devices, right? Not just on a Windows PC.
Yeah, that's right. And you want to, as we all move around the world, we move across devices, and there's some things that we just want to know. And some of them are relatively easy to take care of. Like, okay, my calendar will probably move with me. But like notifications is a little bit harder. The idea of saying, hey, I've been working on this particular thing, now I want to pick it up exactly here, is a little bit more difficult. And so there's real coding work that has to happen to make that pop, and that's what we started showing, so that developers can work with that as well.
Plus, it's cross-platform, right? Apple or Google are probably working on some little bits of this, but their workloads all kind of rely on you being in their space for all of it, for the most part. And I think that's right. Fascinating. But are you back online?
Back. I think I'm back.
Yes, we have Mary Jo back with us.
Yeah. So, Frank, I wanted to ask you a little more about this whole shift in strategy that you guys talked about today, with the idea Windows will make all your devices better. And you just talked a little bit about it, but I kind of feel like it's Microsoft's way of coping with not having its own successful phone platform. Like, it's a way of saying, okay, we're not in the consumer phone space right now, but here's how we're going to play with the platforms that others have. Do you think that's a fair assessment of that?
Yeah, I think for a while now we've been saying that we think about mobility, not just the mobility of the device, but the mobility of the experience across devices. And that's a good way of saying it. And what we're really doing is sort of proving that out. Is that, look, we have phones. People use our phones. People use devices like Surfaces or OEMs ship a bunch of stuff that are arguably portable. They just might not make phone calls with them. And we want to make sure that across all the devices that people have, that they have a great experience with Microsoft. And that's what we've done. Cortana is on all these devices. You can get notifications across all the devices. We have applications that run across all of them. And so we just want to make sure that the experience people have with Microsoft is great regardless of where they are. If you're going to be a productivity company, and we say we are a productivity company, and you believe you want to help people and organizations around the world to achieve more, then you actually have to have your stuff within arm's reach of everybody on the planet. And that involves making sure that your stuff runs really well on all those different devices.
Yeah, actually, so you collectively, Microsoft, had a couple of different ways of saying it, but what it essentially breaks down to is being where the customer is, being where the developer is in this case,
right?
And not forcing them to conform to whatever platform ambitions you might have had at one time. It's just we're going to meet the people where they are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that was a big theme from Scott Guthrie yesterday. He talks about developers, meeting developers where they are, regardless of what they're doing, and then giving them the tools they need to be successful. And it's equally true as we think about devices that people might use.
Yeah, that's fantastic.